Delegate A.C. Cardoza, the 86th District of the Virginia House of Delegates. Welcome. Nice to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Sam. I appreciate the opportunity.
Can we start with you telling the viewers a bit about what you do, particularly in Richmond, when the General Assembly's in session, what you do as a delegate? You have to work on legislation, promote legislation, introduce legislation, work with your own party, work with the other body, the state Senate, to get things done. Can you take all of us through the nuts and bolts of what's involved in getting a piece of legislation from start to finish? Take us through that a little bit.
Absolutely, Sam. Well, really what I do as a legislator is first I hear the concerns of my constituents and I see if I can, without introducing legislation, solve their issue through some other means, as in contacting an executive branch or a department, or I can maybe go through the Attorney General's office for an opinion, which has the force of law. If that doesn't occur, then we find that we have to introduce new legislation. And my job is simply to get that legislation introduced to the floor through both houses of the General Assembly and on to the governor's desk for signature.
Now, that last sentence covers a lot of territory. Introducing legislation and getting it to signature. You have to introduce it, and then I believe, if I got my civics right, the speaker assigns it to the rules committee, and then they assign it to the individual committee, or what gets the process started?
Well, so it will go to first, when I introduce it, it goes usually electronically, unless you do it in a paper form, the old-fashioned way. It goes to the clerk's office electronically, and the clerk will then give it to the speaker. The speaker will then send it to what he feels is the appropriate committee. That committee head will then assign it to the appropriate subcommittee, and I need to show up and defend my bill. And that is can be a hard process because if it's a slam dunk idea, 5 minutes, everyone's like, yep, vote, in and out in 5 minutes. Most of the time, we have to have witnesses. There are witnesses from the other side who oppose the bill, and we have to have a back and forth questions. What is this going to do? Do we want to change this? Let's make an amendment. And it's a true process of sausage making, and this has to happen twice. So you have to do this with your first in the House, has to get through the House, and then has to go to full committee, which usually, if it's already been voted through, you're not having to do that sausage making process too much again. Then it has to go to the House. You have to stand up again and introduce your bill and defend it, because they will question you.
And Delegate, when you say go to the House, you mean the full House on the House floor? Is that what you're saying now?
Okay. Yes, you'll be on the House floor, and you have to stand up in front of all 100 members and the speaker. And he's going to say, bill number 864 is Delegate Cardoza, and you stand and you say, hey, this is my bill. This is what it does. And I would like for it to be moved on to the next step. And it has to be heard 3 times. So it has to be originally put into our calendar. It's like a little booklet of all the bills. And then we have to speak up and defend it and be questions on it. And then if it advanced to that 3rd stage, we vote on it and see if it's going to be passed through our House and on to the next chamber.
Presuming it passes, we're going to work your imaginary bill along here a little bit. It now goes to the other side of the state capitol, to the state Senate. Are you involved at that point in any advocacy for it, or do you turn that over to a state senator who would be in favor of the legislation? Who carries the process in the other chamber?
So you yourself will have to come and defend your bill yet again. So it'll go to their Senate pro tempore, and that person will assign it, of course, to the appropriate committees and subcommittees. And you will again stand before that subcommittee, and you will have to defend your bill like it's brand new. They don't know anything about your bill unless you've had a Senate co-patron already do this, which is smart because it kind of saves the process from having to repeat too much. But if they hadn't done that, they don't know anything about this bill. This is brand new to them, and you have to defend it just like you had to do in the House. And they want to know why this was changed because they can see the changes. Well, why did you change this? We don't like that change. We want to undo it. We don't like that. And so you have to get it through again, committee, full committee. And when it comes to the Senate floor, then someone is picked to represent the bill. Either if the person is a co-patron, then they will, if they had a co-sponsor, they had the same bill on their side, they will represent the bill. If not, it will be the chair of the committee who approved it who will represent that bill. And they have to do the same process. Hopefully it gets voted out in the Senate, and hopefully it doesn't have any changes. Because if they amend it, they have to send it back over to our floor for us to vote on the amendment, the changes again.
And so that people at home can understand, Delegate, when you say a change, even one word constitutes a change. One comma, one anything, that is enough of a change to send it back to the House of Delegates to be voted on again. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. One letter, one character is changed. It will have to come back and be voted on again. And now I will say, generally, when they send it back and it's just a comma, well, let me rephrase, not a comma, it's a period or a misspelling. Commas do actually change the nature of bills significantly, and most people won't expect that, but it definitely significantly changes what the bill means. So if it's anything but a comma, if it's a very technical type of change, $1 was off, a couple cents was off in a bill, then I'll get up and say these are technical amendments and technical in nature, not the content. And usually it just passes through. We understand technical things happen, little mistakes happen. We're just fixing that. But if there's a substantive change, I have to explain why they did it, and I have to convince my body that these substantive changes are worth it. And if it, go ahead.
And if all that in one way or the other finally comes together, everybody from the legislative side of the coin has signed off on it, it can then go to the governor, and the governor can sign it, and then you have a new law, correct?
Yes, but there's a couple of little caveats in between.
I missed something?
a little bit. If they do amend it and we say we don't like those amendments, well, the bill doesn't die. The bill then goes into something called conference, where their side and our side have to have point members, and we have to all come into a room, and a majority of us have to agree, and then that final version is sent to both houses to approve. And then if that happens, the governor gets it, and he can choose to also amend it himself, and we start this process again.
So when legislation is finished, I hope in this brief time we've been able to have the citizens understand, and this is true not just here in Virginia, but I'm sure in state legislatures all over the country, that
Absolutely.
there are a whole heck of a lot of steps in this and a lot of back and forth, that the way it starts and the way it ends, a whole lot can happen in between. Fair statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If a law becomes
you've added a great deal of clarity to it, Delegate Cardoza. Thank you so much for your time on this point. It is very much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for having me.